Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Shelby Simon. I'm the Enterprise Account Manager here at NetElixir. We're really excited to talk about Google Marketing Live today. A little bit about myself. Prior to joining NetElixir, I have spent over 7 years in digital advertising, working in media planning, strategy, pretty much every channel possible, and really just driving performance for brands such as Duracell, BB&T, Audible, and NARS. Here at NetElixir, we help retail brands find and acquire new customers. Our mission is to humanize every click, and we are an agency that specializes in retail, and there are 130 of us in 3 global offices, and these are some of our really treasured partners. Our solutions include paid and organic search, social, analytics consulting and CRO, Amazon, and anything on the e-com tech development side. Today, I'm joined by our fearless leader, Udain, who is the founder and CEO of NetElixir. Prior to that, he founded partybingo.com, and he is a guest lecturer. Highly recommend you check him out on LinkedIn. Welcome, Udain.
Thank you very much, Shelby. Wow, this is going to be a big and a pretty intense webinar. So in terms of content, a prior warning that you really really have to sort of play with me. I mean, as I sort of get in, because I think many times, I mean, as it really happened over the last couple of days at Google Marketing Live, I just got a little too passionate about search. I love search. So it's difficult not to get passionate about search as such. So without further ado, let me just sort of break this webinar into about 3 parts. The first part is why is this Google Marketing Live, or why was this Google Marketing Live event so exciting? The second part was sort of breaking down into the more tactical details. What are the specific or the most important changes and updates which were announced by Google? And essentially, as a marketer, what should you really do to maximize the opportunities which Google has presented to you? And but last but not the least, we have a checklist, and we also have almost like a to-do list for you as well, which you can implement. But before I get started off, I really thought that this would probably be the most appropriate slide for me to start. Katy Perry and Roar. Boy, I mean, this was an event where Google actually roared back. And as someone who has been a fan of Google we started the company essentially around Google in 2004. There was nothing more satisfying, delightful, and I was really sort of complimenting the Google folks there for taking finally a market leader strategy. Now let me explain as to why I am so excited about this at this point in time. Now, over the last 3 or 4 years, as we have gone to the different Google Marketing Live events and so on and so forth, it was used to call Google Marketing Next 2 years back. I think one of the big differences was somehow always the Google announcements had a very defensive tone, as if they were trying to sort of as if they didn't really know how to really react to this crazy threat from Amazon ads, which was non-existent 5 years back, and suddenly this year it's just sort of on a different level. They didn't really know how to respond to the Facebook ads and some of the other social media properties which were really sort of just really sort of expanding. This was the first time I think Google did fundamentally, in terms of pure business strategy, 3 things right. First of all, is understood very clearly that it is a market leader and it is way ahead in terms of each and every aspect of advertising or digital advertising. I don't think there is any other company which can come even remotely close to Google. And pardon my over exuberance, I know Facebook, we work extensively with Facebook, but Facebook is light years behind Google. The only thing is Google had to realize that. So they realized that in this one. The second part is they had to capitalize on what was their biggest strength. Their biggest strength is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. Right? So Google knew all about your customers. Google knew all about those touch points, the intent, not just the intent, they also knew about the context as well. They never utilized this. And as a result of which, they kept focusing on different silos. There was a different team which was talking about Google AdWords, which became thankfully Google Ads last year. Then there was a different team which was talking about YouTube. There was a team which was completely different. They had a performance marketing team and all that stuff. Everything seemed to be so scattered. This time, the biggest theme, and why I sort of get so excited every time I speak about it to anyone, is because they unified everything. They just had to realize one simple thing: as a market leader who has a significant advantage in terms of technology and the overall advertising platform capabilities, you have to act, behave, and think like a leader. And this time they have taken proactive steps. The first step was essentially unifying all the different channels and saying, what heck? I mean, number two overall visited site. I mean, definitely the search engine happens to be YouTube. They never utilized that. It was always a marketing site. Everything was combined this time. So unification was a massive theme this year, which I think will sort of really help not only Google to benefit, but all the advertisers to benefit immensely, because it really sort of opens up a completely different universe of opportunities to them. The third theme, which was unique, which we already always knew, that they probably, Google has as a company more machine learning muscle power than any other company in the world. In fact, there is this great book written by a gentleman called Kai-Fu Lee, who actually started Google China, and he mentions that if there are 500 top machine learning or AI scientists in the world, 100 to 150 of them work only in Google. With all the data, as you sort of see, with the machine learning expertise, this was the time and this was the Google Marketing Live where they really flexed those muscles. Unification. The second thing was machine learning. And the third component, which was very important, they finally, thankfully, moved away from a very siloed approach to a very customer journey driven approach. So they were talking about an era which I think all of the marketers should pay very close attention to, an era of anticipatory marketing. Anticipatory marketing is a unique and an exceptionally powerful next level marketing or next phase of marketing, where you're not only able to serve what the customer is expecting from you, but you're able to anticipate intent and engage with the customer in a responsible and effective manner at the different points in the customer journey. And talking about the customer journey, I mean, one of the things which happens to be a practical reality is, I mean, just think of it. I mean, how many times do you use mobile phone? We had some stats about 3 years back that typically people use their or touch their mobile phones about 150 times a day, right? I'm pretty sure that number would have grown at least about 3 to 5 times over the last 3 years. So we can't even say that people are touching or tapping on the mobile phone. It's a part of your life, right? It's a part of your existence. I mean, mobile phone is you. So from that perspective, understandably, the consumer's interaction with their devices or the different surfaces was becoming increasingly natural. So it was so remarkable finally that Google was able to accept that piece, that because how can we really not look at ourselves as Google as a marketing platform or advertising platform? How can we really sort of look at our entire positioning as a company? When I say as a company in the sense Google's company, essentially, how can we really responsibly and effectively engage customers at each and every touch point in the consumer journey? When you talk about the consumer journey, these were three examples, and this is, pardon it being a little low res image. I was trying my best to take the pictures from directly from the screen as best as I could, but let us take about three specific customers. All of them want to buy sneakers. Now, this is actual data which Google stored. Chad, he spent about 15 days from the first search, which happened on his mobile phone, to final purchase. And in between, in those 15 days, he literally sort of tapped in to go to the website to check out the different options 65 times in 15 days. Look at Marty, age 44, 176 days to buy a sneaker. 176 days, and he had 190 plus touch points. And Heather, age 33, 56 days, and had 300 plus touch points. Now, what Google is saying is something very simple. It is saying that I have, as Google, information about all these touch points. All that it requires is to create something called an activity card for each one of these customers, where we are able to map out each customer profile and then recommend the marketers as to what is the most useful, effective, and responsible way in which you can engage these customers. And understandably, the marketing plan that you sort of adopt, let us say for Chad, would be very different for Marty, would be very different for Heather as well, right? Understandably, because their entire persona, the buying persona, high value customer persona, everything is different. Now, at Little Elixir, I think we have been championing the entire customer journey concept for the last about 3 years now. very actively we are able to, using our tool Alexa Insights, build out those high value customer personas and track them. But with sort of Google getting in, I can absolutely confident to mention that over the next few years, we'll see this entire area or arena of customer journey mapping and customer engagement go to a very different level, thereby ushering in something which is sort of long awaited, which is essentially sort of happening because the entire user friction has been sort of lowered significantly through machine learning that they have used. For example, we had a gentleman from Google called Ben Gomez who mentioned three advancements, very simple advancements, right? The first one was machine learning now has better understanding capability, language understanding capability. Now, we all talk about, I'm pretty sure there are a lot of search marketers who are joining this call, and all of you would be very familiar with this concept of keyword search or phrase match, broad match, etc. Right? Now, think about a phrase, let us say car insurance for my Toyota Corolla or Camry, right? Now, in this case, earlier Google was serving up ads only when someone exactly typed in this line, or probably in different formats, but the same words had to be included. But then the fundamental question is, as people started using voice more and more, why did they have to use the same word? I mean, theoretically, why can't really we expand this to show up ads for auto insurance? Why can't we really sort of do something which really expands the territory, which is based purely on synonyms or analogous words as well? So that's how they are expanding with better, almost like machine learning driven language interpretation capability. They are using synonyms and associated words to expand the overall pool. Now just think of it. I'm talking about broad match or phrase match. Let us say you had about 100 potential universe. Now, once you really expand this using machine learning from, let us say, auto to car, etc., car to auto, etc., etc., suddenly you are amplifying or expanding the size of the universe multiple fold. It's almost like an exponential jump in terms of how much you are able to, how many audience, I mean, how big your audience pool is becoming. The second one was better image recognition capability, right? In many cases, I think the example that was presented was earlier it was you type in a particular set of keywords or keyword phrases, and there was a particular result that you were able to see. But now that concept is gone. Now about 30 to 35% all the searches are voice activated. So basically voice in, and it can be an image out. It probably is a display visual image unit out, right? Or it probably can be an answer out from your Google Assistant. Or it probably can be maybe a video which is being sort of presented to you. And just those text ads or those lines can be just one of those many choices with there. Even in the image recognition capabilities, I think there is a massive amount of work which Google is doing in terms of the AR VR recognition capability. And the example again, which was presented, let us say you're buying a car. You have to go to the dealership, and you are obviously skeptical because you may be hounded by car salesmen who may be pretty aggressive, and that may not be always a very enjoyable experience. What if using AR and VR, Google was able to bring that experience right to your SERP? Let me explain that again. What if using AR and VR, Google was able to transport that experience onto your device on the Google search engine? And they're not using these technologies, they're able to not only show the outside in the difference, there's something called a Google swirl, not only sort of turning this around, but you're able to see the machine, you're able to see the chassis, all of these parts and different things. A level of granularity and detail, which probably even if you had gone to the dealership, no one would have been able to open the car and show you a machine or an engine. So I think the entire thing is transformative, and it is done by the use of advanced technologies, right? Machine learning combined with AR VR becomes huge. And the third component is the greater ability to understand intent at scale. Now, in this case, it wouldn't really help if you are sort of doing it in a lab test, right? How can the entire process be sort of scaled substantially? There are roughly about 5 billion plus smartphone users in the world, or phone users in the world, out of which a majority are 75% of smartphone users, right? So 4 billion of smartphone users. Now, from that perspective, we are talking about massive numbers. Our technology has no value if it is sort of confined only to a smaller pool of customers. It has to be applicable and extended. So now really think of that concept at scale when you talk about language, when you talk about image recognition, when you talk about the interpretation that we do for the AR, VR related images and so on. And suddenly the number of variables which are there is incredible. But those are the things that is being constantly done by the multiple scientists who are working for Google. so as to lower the friction, the usage friction through machine learning. At the end of it, I think the idea is to usher in a keywordless world, right? Because I mean, already about 30 or 35% of all the searches are basically voice activated, right? And the day is not far when probably 50 to 60% of all the searches would just be spoken. You sort of speak to your Google Assistant or speak to your phone and essentially expect an answer. The answer can be an image, can be a video, can be just an answer, right? Someone who is speaking out and giving you the right answer as such. So that is what is exciting, and I think this was an event where Google made a pretty big statement that we have a leadership position and we intend to strengthen and extend our leadership position. And that was, I think, one of the things which I was very fascinated about and passionate about as well. Now, in terms of the entire thing, the entire focus from Google's perspective was in terms of anticipating intent. Now, let me explain this. When I say anticipating intent, we went through those customer journeys, right? Wouldn't it be cool if using machine learning, you are able to analyze millions and billions of customer journeys, segmenting them into different buckets, to the extent you know as to what is that the customer wants when she has a particular engagement with a particular device at a certain point in time in certain day of the week and so on. And at the same time you are able to use all the background historical data to probably predict a future impact as well, a transaction, because that would really help marketers to serve up ads or serve up ad units, let us say, across devices in a much more responsible manner. So again, how to meet intent at every context becomes important. And again, one point I really wanted to clarify on the context part: when someone is sort of searching on the phone, the context may be different from someone is sort of searching on the desktop versus someone on the laptop, on tablets as well. So something to be kept in mind. The second part is how to really engage that intent across formats and surfaces. Again, something that I just talked about, and how to do the above at scale, right? Because we are talking about massive numbers there. So the entire world of anticipatory marketing changes everything that we know, right? Marketing was earlier sort of built out in silos, right? So siloed channel marketing, where there is a separate team doing SEO, separate team doing SEM, separate team doing social, that concept would be obsolete very soon. And actually, that can be pretty much a big hurdle or a bottleneck for a lot of companies to really provide a seamless, unified customer experience, which I think all these large companies, Google, and I'm pretty sure Bing would sort of announce it very shortly as well. And then the social media channels will sort of follow the suit and so on and so forth. That siloed channel marketing, I think, is out. And consumer intent driven marketing is in. And that's, I think, the big sort of takeaway from this part. Now, why is Google sort of positioned well to dominate? Now we have to understand that I think about five or six of the properties in Google. When I say properties, I'm talking about Google Ad Unit, Gmail. I'm talking about YouTube, Chrome, Android. All of them have more than a billion users, right? So we are talking about a massive overall user base. And some of these user bases obviously are overlapping, but many of the user bases may be additive as well. So if you really add, it would not be 1 plus 1 plus 1 leading to 5. It probably would be more than that, right? So from that perspective, the potential, I'm sorry, it would be less than that, but it will still be quite substantial. So overall, I think that is something which really is a help. And one of the key messages which came out of this Google Marketing Live event was Google is making a conscious attempt in terms of trying to unify all the different channels. You would think that that's a very simple strategy move, right? Why didn't they do it earlier? But they are doing it now. And I think let this be almost like conveying from the part of Google, literally almost like a clarion call for all the marketers. It is high time that you stop dealing with different channels and products as silos and think of a unified marketing effort. The second component was access to petabytes of high quality customer data. I mean, I think if you really look at any tech advancement, right? Look at any tech advancement over the last about 50, 60, 70 years. That has happened only when there are multiple factors all sort of come together at the same time. Now, what is really happening? That time is now. And that is what made it very fascinating, this particular Google Marketing Live event. Because now Google has access to a ton of data. They also have access to superior, probably the best in world machine learning capabilities in house, and they're able to blend all of this together to produce something which is extraordinary in terms of impact. I would almost like liken this combination of AI plus the big data component very similar to when the internet was started. I know it may sound very hyperbolic, but kid you not, I mean that's what it is. I mean, when you combine the power of big data and AI, now you will see what is the impact it will have. We got a flavor of this. In fact, we have been doing the Modern Search Month. We did two webinars this month on the 8th and the 9th, and we have one that we are collaborating with Bing on later this month on the 30th as well. But that was the reason, because I don't think people underestimate as to how big the impact of AI can be, right? And this is the time that you will see what is the impact. We had a sense. We work with quite a few retail customers, over 100 retail customers, and working with them as we really implemented machine learning algorithms, simply something like, let us say, smart audience selection. We were amazed as to how big of a spike we were able to get. I had done a webinar on the 8th of this month where I showed that one of our clients, Sarka Lighting, they had upwards of triple digit increases in percentages. And we were not doing a bad job. It was just that AI opened up completely new opportunities and audiences which no one had absolutely any clue on. So this was the moment that GML 2019, I think, will go down in history as a landmark event, primarily because this was the event when Google, for the first time ever in the advertising world or the digital world, was able to bring together the powers of big data, the powers of machine learning, combine them using a concept which is called the anticipatory marketing, which takes the entire playing field away from the siloed channel based marketing. And that is the reason this event was a transformative event. Now, let me explain as to what it means for some of the competitors and using a funnel. So, hopefully, you'll sort of bear with me as I try to sort of muddle my way in terms of trying to explaining. This is exciting. Now, what had happened is, look at this funnel. So, let us say this is the shopping funnel, right? In the shopping funnel, what had happened over the last about 4 or 5 years, Facebook and the other social media platforms have started eating away into the top of the funnel, right? So, you have the top of the funnel where Facebook, they have started eating away, and then Amazon had started getting a lot of traction at the bottom of the funnel. So as a result of which, Google was getting pushed to the middle of the funnel, right? No company ever wants to get in the middle of the funnel, because middle of the funnel is is really the least preferred option, primarily because neither are you a brand story or are you basically a conversion or monetization story, right? So there is no story there. So effectively, the announcement which Google made, for example, discovery ads, and they have launched Google Discover, the cross-platform advertising. Now, all of the ads would sort of show up in all the properties that you really want to select, right? So theoretically, you can really have the same ad show up in YouTube, show up in Google Images. You can basically show up in Google Shopping. You can show up in Google Discover, everything, right? That itself is pretty huge. And then the YouTube bumper ads, the launch of those 6-second small bumper ads, the mini ads, right? Almost like the Vine type ads, I think is a huge thing, because they presented a study where the bumper ads literally beat the 30-second ads, which were promoted through TrueView, by a scale of 134%. So, I mean, as anyone from the advertising world knows, it's all about reach and frequency, right? How many people are you reaching and what is the frequency? Now, by combining machine learning, identifying the right format of ad and type of ads, 6-second ads, Google has been, again, as I told, I mean, use AI to beat their own format by 134%. Incredible. And then, sort of going down into the funnel, you would see on the right side things like shopping actions, right? So again, there is a very conscious effort to blend in the Google Shopping and Google Express, right, combined into one. So is Google becoming a very direct threat to Amazon? Heck yeah, absolutely. I mean, what else? I mean, you directly kind of just click and buy on Google, right? And sort of removing the friction constantly. So I sort of explained the entire concept of removing the friction. They're removing the friction and making the entire process seamless. The second is the showcase shopping ads. Again, they have done a research where they found out, this was very interesting stats, that for human beings, when they make a decision, apparently 30% of our neurons essentially are focused only on the visual activation, right? So let us say you have 100 neurons in your brain, 30% of them are activated only by visuals, right? So they understand the fact, and that is the reason they are going to be sort of pushing a lot in terms of display, a lot in terms of Facebook. I'm sorry, I keep on saying Facebook, YouTube, and a lot in terms of purely the shopping units as well. And the showcase shopping ads and increasing the inventory of showcase shopping ads is a big step towards the same point as well. Then they have the gallery ads as well, which comes up, the big gallery, the unit on mobile, which sort of shows up. Again, everything is very visual, focused around understanding the consumer behavior very deeply and coming up with the ad unit which really makes sense. Then we have the shopping action with partners. Now, this is very interesting, and we have a point of view. I actually sort of had a quick discussion with my friend who's a professor who specializes only in retail store visits and retail store staff related issues in UNC, North Carolina. So I had a conversation with him. So I'll sort of include some of the excerpts of the conversation also through this call as well. What does it really mean? Then we have the local campaigns, again exceptionally exciting. So taking the entire battle to the storefronts, the local storefronts, and where obviously the store inventory connection was introduced about I think 2017, but promoted pins also were introduced a couple of years back. But promoted locations is exciting, right? So you can really sort of promote and push ads for particular locations on the Google Maps. Then we have the shoppable ads. So literally Google through shoppable ads, it's really sort of focusing on a very simple but a very profound and I believe a game changing concept. The concept is if I were to remove friction that is there between the buyer or the shopper and the surface, we can really get many more shoppers to participate in the entire buying process or online shopping process. And it's a pretty a very bold statement. And they are doing that by using or utilizing the concept of a universal shopping cart. Think of all the properties included images, you can sort of buy through the images. If you really go on to YouTube, you can buy from YouTube. If you really sort of go on to Discover, you can buy from Discover. So they are making buying easy. They are sort of literally sort of democratizing the entire sort of a world in terms of it reduces the friction between effectively the user and the actual device interaction in terms of making a purchase. Unbelievable, amazing, right? Again, the reason I found this entire idea to be profound. Now let us consider, I think, the big 800 pound gorilla, probably 8,000 pound gorilla or more, in the retail world is Amazon, right? The strength of Amazon is basically its 100 million prime users, 100 million plus prime users. That's what its strength is. And honestly speaking, everyone was constantly sort of focusing on that strength, right? That is that company's competency. Do not try to compete with that company on that competency, but look at as to what else is out there outside that 100 million, right? And I think in this GML, finally, Google conveyed that we have really tried to think of it in a very different way. I mean, this was a great example of finally a strategic vision of a market leader going beyond just a defensive sort of getting in. And let's say the entire world is a consumer, right? And we have so many touch points. We have roughly about 3, 4 billion actual users who come to our site multiple times in a day. So what can we do to engage these guys better and give them and reduce the friction which comes between them and actually they're making a purchase? Simple, easy, right? But that is where I think this again was a very exciting opportunity. Shoppable ads I've already gone through, and universal shopping cart I think is a very profound thing. While it was sort of expand, we very firmly believe that discovery ads, the YouTube bumper ads, and basically integration of the unifying all these devices would help Google move up the funnel as well. Interestingly, there are certain units which Google is saying that literally you don't have to even create your own units. Just copy paste what you have on Pinterest, and you really have those shoppable images, right? You should just sort of copy, sort of use the same assets that you already have on Facebook, right? That can very easily sort of do for, let us say, discovery ads or what you have on Instagram. Why don't you sort of create those things and just let Google machine learning decide what ads to show up, and then we'll figure out those bumper ads, right? Cool stuff. Right, that's competitive, man. That's really sort of directly taking the challenge to the competition. On the same side, at the bottom of the funnel, they're saying, Amazon, this is your strength. We accept that. We don't want to fight you on that. But there is a huge wide world outside of this. Let us see as to how you can compete with us, just because we have access to much more data compared to what you have, right? So that's, I think, just using that power of much beyond just the walled garden is really what makes this very promising. While it has been sort of doing that to strengthen its position of the top of the funnel as well as the bottom of the funnel, it also sort of made some fundamental changes, or I wouldn't say changes, introductions in terms of increasing its core value proposition or the core products as such. So that's where the smart bidding was something that was amplified or emphasized multiple times. In smart bidding, two important changes which our team loves. The first one was they introduced a new smart bidding strategy, which was around maximizing conversion value, right? So now they are looking at the total impact that your campaign can have, and they have the conversion value mapping. They are able to sort of manage based on the customer lifetime value. They are defining lifetime value as 12 months. And effectively, based on that, they are able to optimize essentially your overall number of conversions, conversion value. The second one was they have given far greater controls in terms of having different campaigns with different objectives or campaign targets or goals, right? So think of three different campaigns. One of them, you are focused on a new product launch. You probably want to just get maximize number of visitors, right? Then you have the next campaign where you have to want to maximize the conversion value. So again, a different goal. The third campaign probably is very, very ROI and profitability focused. So just get into the TROAS campaigns. So from that perspective, this again will really help give more control to the marketers and agencies like us. And that will really help us to plan, decide, and organize all of this a lot better, right? I mentioned when I presented on the 8th of this month in my modern search webinar that one of the benefits of machine learning or AI is it improves the value of expert judgment. And by really doing these, giving these controls in our hand, what as a marketer or an expert we all need to do is we need to focus in terms of our strategy a lot more. We need to ensure that we are sort of expanding across the different channels. We need to decide as to what campaign would have a what particular goal, and then let machine learning do all those mundane, regular, repetitive jobs. Cool, isn't it? The last one is also equally impressive, which is more of the deep linking of apps. So effectively, in many cases, you were sort of advertising, and you really had an app which was very popular, but you didn't really give any option or a choice to customers to click on and go to your app instead of a website. Right, the customer always had to click on a Google ad and go to the website. Now through the deep linking of apps, you essentially are giving the customer a choice. Do you really want to go to the app, because it seems that you basically have been engaged with this app and you like this app a lot. So that again will have a profound impact in terms of how this entire thing sort of plays out in the future as well. I would love to take questions. I know there is a lot out there, and we are trying to compress a lot of the information in very short time. We'll be more than happy to answer any questions at the end of it, or even if you have later, you can contact me, Udayan at Netlexed or university at netlexed.com, and we'll be more than happy to sort of answer your questions as well. So moving on, let us just look into the different formats. I'll not spend too deep because some of this is very technical. And what we plan to do is over the next about 15 days or so, we'll have blog posts written on each one of these segments as well. So you check out Netflix at blog. And we'll sort of have a much deeper discussion, practice, and so on and so forth. But we really wanted to sort of come up with the key formats and key discoveries, more of a reminder. We have a checklist at the end of it that you can download as well. So discovery ads, we have tried to break it down in a very, very sort of a detailed format. The first one is ad formats. The second is actionable steps. How can you really do this well, or what do you need to do to succeed as a retailer? And then who can benefit? And lastly, as to what funnel stage does it apply to? So as I mentioned, discovery ads is focused on all retail marketers can utilize this, and it is very clearly a top of the funnel strategy, right? I'll not get too much into the actionable step. There are a lot out there. We'll sort of share the presentation with all of you who have joined. But a couple of things just sort of pulled up from discovery ads. The first part is you can use winning creative assets from other media, which is very powerful. So you literally don't have to create and recreate new stuff for this. And the second part essentially is it's very important for you to keep on refreshing the creatives, primarily because the machine learning algorithms are constantly working on it, trying to find out the best option. And what you need to do is you need to train the machine learning algorithms, right? So if some of you who had joined our previous one, I had mentioned this unique decision making model wherein you have to really constantly keep training the AI. So this is a way for you to train the AI. The second component, gallery ads, again, it's more for the mobile part, again, using the winning text ads. And one important thing here is to ensure that there is always consistency between the images in the ad unit and the landing pages. Because only if you do those changes on the ad unit, but don't really bother to change your landing page, then you are immediately interrupting, or let us say disrupting, the entire user experience as well. So something which needs to be focused on. Bumper machine, this is a very clear practical example of Google using machine learning or AI to spit out those 6-second ads very quickly. So all that you need to do is you have to upload your larger or longer video unit, which can be up to 90 seconds. It can be 30, 60, 90 seconds. Upload it, and Google will sort of break it down, split it down into different 6-second units, test the different combinations, and then come up with the most optimal combination based on machine learning. Cool, right? So again, a huge testing, experimentation, and coming up with these things. And the results, as I mentioned, I mean, they have done the comparison with some customers, and it was about a 134% increase in the overall view throughs as well as click throughs as well. So moving on, I really wanted to show you as to what this sort of looks like. So one of the key components is unification, right? So you have those ads, like for example, this is for Fabletics, which is a brand of a company called Textile, and you will see the ad appear essentially on YouTube unit. You will see it appear essentially on Google Shopping or Discover unit, and you would see it appear even in your Gmail ads as well. And the interesting part is in the Gmail ads, you can see the promotions tab. You see these as top deals, right? So they are already creating a segmentation within that as well. So that highlight the top deals also, right? So very, very smart in a way. Again, sort of really looking at all the different resources which have more than a billion users with a B, and trying to unify all of this stuff, right? Awesome stuff. And moving on to the shopping, which is now we are getting to the bottom of the funnel, right? So these are some of the changes. And the first one is new inventory for showcase ads. Understandably, when you are opening up showcase ads to all the different channels, understand the inventory available multiplies multiple fold. The merger of Google Express with the overall Google shopping experience. So let us say providing a frictionless experience where people can directly buy from Google properties. The universal shopping cart concept is tremendously powerful. Personalized homepage for the shopper, customizing per my preference. So, I mean, that's something which is pretty cool. And shopping campaigns with partners, which I'll sort of delve on and I'll sort of share as to what I and the professor of UNC school sort of discussed. So again, I'll not really get into too detail. A lot of information here. My request is please read through. If you have any questions, we'll be more than happy to answer them. Send us your emails, university@netelixir.com. You can directly contact me, udayan@netelixir.com. But new inventory, I think we have some steps. The most important one I really wanted to highlight is actually the last one or the last bullet, which keep the store info and the product inventory up to date if you have a physical store. Very important, and I'll explain you as to why. There is a tremendous focus from Google on the local stores and local campaigns, right? And again, really look at this, right? So effectively, there are marketplaces and there is a world beyond marketplaces. Now, the retailers, they have an online presence, they have their website, but they have their stores as well. Is there a way for Google to utilize its definite sort of a dominance in this space where it has knowledge about both to unify both of these things? Or rather than unify, to help you, Mr. Retailer, to unify both of these properties so that your customer can really have a seamless experience. Because if it does, then your customer does not really have any reason to go to a marketplace. At this point in time, there was an observation which was made. Research shows that a big chunk of why people go to the marketplace because they have very different experience. They walk into a store, the experience is different compared to going to the website, and so on. Right? So that is incredibly powerful, guys. So please upload your inventory and really tie in and utilize the power of showcase ads. The last component, which was sort of a little off earlier, which they have integrated now, they didn't really have those showcase shopping ads within this thing. So now you can really sort of visual, remember the 30% of the neurons are activated by the visual images, then sort of go in and unify this inventory. So suddenly you really have to consider Google, that particular shopping unit, as basically your marketplace option, an alternative to the marketplace, probably a stronger alternative to the marketplace because you are able to not only just sort of check it online, but go and touch and feel as well if you need to, while being ensured that you have the same experience. Cool stuff, isn't it? So that's where looking at things completely differently, I think, is very, very important. The second one is merger of the Google Express with the overall shopping experience. Again, very important, primarily because I mean, you really need to understand a very simple and the fundamental thing. I'll go to the last point, last bullet on this thing. You to understand that searches are activated now more and more by voice, right? So unless and until you really are optimized to really sort of show up when some or maybe get answered, let us say from a Google Assistant, there is no way that you are going to dominate this space. So from that perspective, I think there is a big premium in terms of sort of integrating these pieces because you are again reducing the friction in the entire customer journey in this case. So ensure that the products and offers cater to the relevant voice search interactions with the assistants as well. And the last one is more of a personalized homepage for the shopper. So this is cool primarily because I think it's all about choice, right? I am giving the choice. Shelby has her own sort of homepage. She's buying the same thing, sneakers, but she probably would have a different shopping page. I really need a separate shopping page experience. Why not? Through personalization, I think it's very important for Google to also show that we really sort of care for you and understand for you. More importantly, it really helps it to understand the context more and more. And when the machine learning sort of work on these contexts, they're able to give you much superior results. Now, one part of caution in this part, and Google also introduced very strong, stringent privacy policy as well. I've not really sort of presented it in there. I mean, we'll be sort of writing more about it. They are very strongly recommending that all the businesses really relook at the privacy policy in light of all the stringencies in terms of privacy norms, whether it is GDPR, etc. I think it's very important for everyone to really have an updated privacy policy on their website. The second part is there would be a very clear preference for the first party cookies, first party tracking mechanisms, right? So the third party tracking mechanism, wherever possible, I think will be marginalized while giving a lot of credit into the first party cookie mechanism, the tracking mechanisms, primarily because you don't really want to share data with a lot of other vendors or tools or technologies, right? Primarily because you never know as to whether they are up to date in terms of their privacy policy and privacy norms. That's something which I really want to mention. So in that case, they also presented a pretty interesting fact. A huge number in millions. I think it was 14, a big number. Basically, number of people basically every month they deleted their cookies, right? And they blocked the ads. So effectively, if they are doing that, knowing that that is not going to change anytime soon, probably going to go, and the privacy norms are going to be getting more stringent, how exactly can Google still exist and thrive and grow, right? And that is where again machine learning is coming to the use. Primarily because it is able to utilize the data it already has from the customers, and it is able to create associative experiences. So something which looks like this would look like this thing. Remember I talked about the image recognition earlier, where I mean, just for the AI to make out that this is a cat and not a dog itself was a challenge. And now they have gone to a very advanced level, probably where they can probably beat most human beings. And that's where Google Lens would be a key component in this entire driver, because not only can they tell that this is a cat, they can probably tell it a lot of history and the background about that cat as well, much better than human beings can. Right? So again, use of machine learning in a smart way. But from that perspective, the same concept, if it can be expanded to build on those associative experiences, suddenly you have been able to very cleverly, without really breaking any privacy norms, go ahead and still continue providing those high value audiences for marketers to really go after and try to engage. And that's where I'll keep on repeating this theme. There is a certain time in the history, any technology history over the last many years, you see, there is a particular moment where all the different powers have to really come to being, right? Just one moment. And this was that moment where they had the big data. They have the machine learning capabilities, are best in the world, combining both of them, and then really getting into the extrapolative and the associative overall predictions. Now, this is how essentially, again, sort of it looks like more of the gallery ads. I'll really get into, yeah, these are some of the ads again there as well. And then there's a personalized shopping screen. You can sort of have shopping screens like this. I'm just quickly going through it because I know I'm coming pretty close to it. This is what I really wanted to also spend a little bit of time with as well. Shopping campaigns with partners. I sincerely feel that this has the potential to uh, significantly impact as to how online shopping is done today. So, what really is happening is the brands now can collaborate with retail partners. So, let us say manufacturers or brands can collaborate with retail partners. So essentially, brands can selectively promote specific products with specific retailers. So, let us say, let us say I'm Lenovo. Lenovo is one of our clients, and they decide to partner with, let us say, Best Buy, right? Lenovo has a new product launch and it really wants to spend a lot on the new product launches, right? And Best Buy is a very important channel partner for them. So essentially, if Best Buy is running an ad, Google allows you the flexibility of Lenovo to add in the manufacturer or the brand contribution to that as well. Let us say Best Buy was earlier able to spend about $100 promoting, let us say, a particular new laptop from Lenovo. Now Lenovo says that I'll contribute another $100. So suddenly their advertising spend goes up substantially. So this again is huge. If you really now essentially, if you really look at it's huge for multiple reasons. I really wanted to, without getting too biased in my passion and all the excitement, I really wanted to talk to my good friend who's a professor in UNC, because I think some of the thoughts, these are again not have to be flushed out and sort of like there's more of a core marketing campaigns. Now, what would happen is Google is literally encouraging retailers and brands and collaborate and take the battle to the stores, right? Why really look everything from digital or online or the desktop, right? I mean, in fact, there was a fantastic presentation by the chief digital officer of Calvin Klein who said that what digital? It's all about an experience, right? You're talking about a customer experience, right? So why do the stores have to be different from online and laptops and whatever, mobile and so on and so forth, right? It is one same unified experience. Forget about the digital experience and store experience. Why can't it be just one unified experience? So I had a conversation with Professor Sarvanan. So I think one of the information that he said, he was very excited as well. And he said that retailers have been trimming the store labor costs. Understandably, that's I think what gets on the chopping block fairly quickly, primarily because a lot of store closings and they can't really afford that store labor, etc., etc. Now, what this initiative can do is because you are have the potential of significantly driving up how much you are investing on these store campaigns or the specific brand campaigns, it is likely to drive more traffic to the stores potentially, right? Thereby actually sort of finally stemming the labor cost cuts. Massive, right? I mean, if you think of it, probably because maybe we don't really sort of run a store, we don't know as to how painful this entire process is. It is all giving us a solution. It is giving us a solution which is much more profound than just advertising. It is all about employment and sort of getting the people to be gainfully employed there without really having to sort of cut those jobs. It's huge, right? But and how exactly is it doing? Again, using all the data, all the information it has, and just looking at a very simple concept. Forget about online and offline. Talk about a unified experience. The other part was, as we were discussing and debating, me and Sarvan, and we were discussing this thing, and we said that the store staff will now have to be trained differently as well, right? So again, the entire paradigm of a store staff, is it changing? Is the store staff's role changing? And if so, there are opportunities. Any change presents opportunities because, as I mentioned, that the cuts probably will come down, and the people have to be much more knowledgeable. So in that case, there would be a tremendous amount of opportunities to engage in smart, interactive training options as well, which is possibility. I mean, there is no harm in thinking that it will not happen. And then I think the other unique part is brands can really study the retailer and store specific product purchase patterns, right? So let us say my Princeton Best Buy sells a lot of this X product. So Lenovo can decide that I'll support Best Buy in the zip code 08540 and share the marketing budget promoting that particular brand product. Cool stuff, right? So let us say if you really have this information, you're able to get down to the SKU level at the store level. So far in the history of overall commerce, that has never really happened. And that is happening because a simple thing, we have the data which unifies both of these components. Huge. And then Google obviously allows you to track those in-store conversions, right? So you're able to see as to what is the impact. And let us, for a moment, just at least accept, let us stop talking about online and offline. And let us now, from here on, talk about anticipatory marketing and talk about unified experiences. Because that's where I think the world is going to. Moving on to the next part, I know I've already exceeded my time limit. The next part was more on the audience part. So they are combining the custom affinity and the custom intent audiences to create one custom audience. Again, sort of increasing the pool, and there would be a lot of AI powered audience expansion, which we'll be sort of doing as well. So I don't get too detailed into this part because already I've sort of overshot my time limit a bit. So I think just a couple of things. Google is introducing a new format called display prospecting, which I really want all of you to think of carefully, right? So think about display. I think all of you probably know the concept of remarketing or retargeting, right? So retargeting is about already the customer has been there. Let us try to get them win back as a customer. And the visitor has been there, but let us try to get them to be a customer. Prospecting is a revolutionary concept because it is saying, it is again a clear part of anticipatory marketing based on certain trends that this visitor has a higher likelihood of converting, right? So from being a reactive, as in basically retargeting or remarketing, you are sort of proactively showing them ads, which leads them down a very different and a unique prospecting funnel altogether. Cool stuff again, because that really expands your overall prospects, and that can done well again through obviously the experts have to be involved in terms of understanding the overall type of customers, sort of map out the high value customer insights, etc., etc. But done well, this can be a massive opportunity for every retailer to win new customers, and everyone loves to get new customers. The second one is more of an audience based expansion. So this is essentially sort of expanding the overall pool. I mean, as we have shared earlier, Sarka Lighting or Lenovo, for all of our customers, we are seeing massive growths by implementing in a smart way all the AI driven audience functionalities. I'll not really get too deep into this. If you're interested, go to our website netlexer.com/modern search, and you can download those best practices checklists there in terms of how to expand this part. But that is something which will keep on focusing and keep on expanding. The exciting part, though, also in this case is now the options are much more, because you are unifying all the different products. So you have Google, you have YouTube, you have Google Discover, you have basically the Chrome audience. So it's a massive increase in terms of which we call the concept of the universal shopping cart. Then moving on to the smart bidding. So smart bidding, one of the most exciting pieces was the launch of seasonality based smart bidding. Then there was, as I earlier mentioned, sort of using maximize conversion value as an option, and then campaign level goals and rules for conversion values as well. So this is typically how the Google screen took like. Again, sort of pardon my taking a picture literally from the screen, though we were sitting right in the front, but still, I think it is pretty blurry still. But so Google essentially will help you to find out the highest value customers. And effectively for the last 12 months, it's giving you the average customer lifespan in weeks, the customer pound, the observed conversions, the average conversion value, and the average total conversion value as well. Right? So you're able to get a pretty, as I call the activity card per customer. This is how your high value customer. So it is very clearly and actively encouraging retailers or businesses to move away from the last click tracking mechanism, because last click can be exceptionally myopic in terms of the overall opportunity. You're sort of missing out so much that you don't even know as to how much you're missing out. So from that perspective, this is the concept of the conversion value based optimization, where you can expand it and sort of focus and try to optimize based on the high value overall the customer value, and thereby really transform as to how you do the entire smart bidding. Now, this is where I wanted to again have another sort of a picture. Store visits in smart bidding, effectively, you are able to track also the store visits in the smart bidding. So they are integrating, as I mentioned, there is no concept of online and offline. You're talking about a unified experience. So since they are tracking online, they are tracking offline as well, combining both of them and coming up with a very specific overall smart bidding strategies. In new signals, the seasonality is interesting, primarily because as those of you who have really implemented smart bidding know that since it is any success of smart bidding algorithm is entirely based on the quantum of data, as we call the statistically relevant data set. Understandably, it fails to work for smaller campaigns, shorter campaigns. So in this case, what they are saying is it basically is providing an option where you can really mark up certain smart bidding algorithms by a certain factor. Let us say Mother's Day, we work with Teleflora. They really want to spend 50% more, 30% more in terms of cost per click, right? So it allows you that manual intervention or that expert intervention, so as to be able to address and really customize smart bidding for those very specific seasonal times, or let us say holiday season and so on. So this would be something which would be in tremendous use this holiday season, specifically because that's, I think, one of the areas where earlier smart bidding was not very successful. The second one was maximize conversion value. I've already discussed this, lifetime value based, not really get into too much. Campaign level conversion, it sort of increases the overall control that you have. I really wanted to also focus for just a minute in terms of the conversion rules or value rules. So the example which was given was, let us say a bank is trying to acquire new customers, right? Now they can acquire a new customer who opens a standard checking account, which let us say $200 is typically the worth of that. But someone who is probably getting into a more of a trading account plus checking account, etc. At this point in time, the algorithms have no way to differentiate both these conversions, right? One is a $200 account, the other one is a $500 or $600 account, right? Both of them are treated equally. Now, Google is in the next few months, or let us say by the end of this year, if not beginning of next year, will come up with an opportunity whereby smart bidding can be customized by the value of the individual user as well. So essentially, the type of accounts or the type of conversion that can be different separately. So you can have those the user level rules also, which can be created as well. So that's again a pretty fundamental smart tip, because I mean I still cringe when I see a lot of companies still using a very antiquated metric, performance metric called the cost per acquisition. I mean, cost per acquisition of a customer is worth $10 for you versus someone who is worth $1,000 for you. I don't think it requires a rocket scientist to tell you that that's a pretty antiquated and maybe an irrelevant overall target metric. The last part is mobile and local. Now, in this case, the deep linking again sort of reduces the friction from the web versus the app experiences. And then the promoted pins and the promoted locations and Google Map routes are pretty important as well. Uh, Deep linking again, we'll be able to track those in-app transactions as well, which I think is a plus part. There is some amount of technical work which is required using the GA and Firebase essentially. I mean, those of you who are interested will be sort of just email us and we'll be sort of happy to put you in touch with our tech team and who can sort of help you with some of these pieces if you don't really have any tech support internally. Promoted pins and promoted locations are interesting primarily because it's almost like a Google map. Just look at this image, right? Let us say Google map, and you're able to sort of come up with those images. This actually is a different one. Yeah, this one. So effectively, when you type on a map, suddenly the location comes, and then your promoted location essentially sort of shows up. So this is the Google Maps. This is the location, and your ad can pop up there. So this is what they call promoted locations essentially. Moving on, I'll just sort of summarize all the thoughts. There are just too many. I think I have tried to, as best as we can, try to do justice to all of these concepts. And I really hope we have been able to excite you, get you excited on this part. But I think the first part and the most important takeaway for all of you, all the marketers who are joining us today, is by shifting focus from channel to customer intent, Google really has ushered in the world of anticipatory marketing. So if you don't really sort of join the or get on the bus now, I'm sorry to say, but you'll never be able to catch up later, because AI and machine learning is powering the developments at such a fast pace that if someone is even delayed by 6 months, it would be very very difficult to catch up, and you probably will always be playing a catching up game. So that's, I think, the first very clear signal. The second is more of very similar. Say no to siloed marketing approach and try to think about the customer journey. We have been very actively championing the high value customer persona creation using our Elixir Insight tool, which goes beyond the Google properties and takes into account the other, let us say, email, affiliate, and other channels as well. So talk to us regarding the Elixir Insights tool as well. We'll be more than happy to share how we have been actively championing this. So say no to the siloed marketing effort. Machine learning plus big data plus universal shopping cart is transformative. It is just taking search to a different level. And it is taking it to a different level at a space which is incredible. If I were you, I would very strongly recommend bet big on YouTube ads, bet big on shopping ads because that graphic and the shopping unit is huge. Bet big on local campaigns because there would be a conscious effort constantly which has started and which will go to a different level by unifying the experiences, thereby forget about online and offline. And of course, when you are doing all of this stuff, I mean, this probably is a no-brainer. Think mobile first, because I mean, who cares about a desktop today? Let us just be very direct about, blunt about this. Increase smart bidding impact through conversion value, led bid strategy. I mean, and stronger controls at campaign levels are important. And lastly, I mean, this is pretty much Netflix's formula for success anytime that we have worked with anyone, any retailers. And we are very, very fortunate and lucky to work with a wide range of retailers in every industry within retail. And we'll be working very closely with them over the next 45 to 60 days to really implement all of these strategies is test, learn, apply, repeat. That's, I think, the magic formula which is out there. So, I mean, you can access all the keynote presentations. So this is the link where you can actually see the live recordings of all the presentations which are there, effectively g.co at Market Live. So, yeah.
Thanks so much, Eden. We really appreciate it. It looks like we don't have a ton of time left, but we really liked hearing about the strategic vision from Google. I personally love the AI and big data portion, super passionate about that. If anyone else wants to download our Google Marketing Live checklist, highly recommend it. The link is right here, netelixir.com/GML2019. Also follow us on LinkedIn. That way you're able to stay up to date on everything.
Great. Thank you, Shelby. I don't know whether we have time for questions, but if any of you have any questions, please email us university@netelixir.com. Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.